Welcome back to the Captain's Table. What is it called? After Dark section, the Q&A section with Himeka, Red Monster SC, and Radar Ranger with Andy. We're taking questions from the chat. If you missed our discussion on 4.0, is it the best patch ever? Make sure you can check that out. I'll make a link. Make sure there's a link above Himeka's head. You just click that link and go straight there, and you'll be able to watch our takes on it. I think we had some good discussions, good nuanced takes, especially with 4.0 as it stands right now, as of January 11th, 2025. So, all right. With that all being said, let's jump right into the questions. The first question is from Northern Trooper, who asks, question for Himeka. How can we get Red Monster SC to watch Dimension 20 Starstruck Odyssey?
Watch night.
Watch night?
Well, yeah, get a watch night going.
So is it, Red, you also do table TTRPGs. You've been trying to get our TTRPG crew together to do stuff for a couple of months now.
So yeah, I didn't grow up doing TTRPGs, but a group of coworkers got together, and it's been about 8 years now that we've had a weekly game after work.
Oh my gosh.
There. So if anybody has tried to run a table with a group of adults, they understand the sacrifices and pure madness that is trying to keep a group like that together for 8 years. But yeah, we alternate between DMs and stories and stuff, but it's been kind of consistent. Now, I did kind of get brought into it because of Critical Role, and that's one that Mrs. Red and I watched together. Yeah, we've got a backlog there, but also our eventually we can branch out into other groups. Just
I will say with Dimension 20,
I feel a little left out. What is Dimension 20?
Oh, Dimension 20.
What is it?
It's a TTRPG crew. I think they used to be part of Dropout. I think so.
Brendan Lee Mulligan, I think, is one of the most recognizable faces in that group, and he's super funny. He's super creative, amazing DM. Just a joy to listen to.
He's a great comedian. Yeah, he's a great comedian. It's funny because you watch Critical Role. He's actually done an interview with Matt Mercer. Where they sat down and talked about it. He actually had Matt Mercer as a player at Dimension 20 for one of the tables. So,
nice.
And they've had some guest players exchanged throughout the years. So it's certainly one that's on the roadmap. But there's a content backlog for me. And
the one thing I will say about Dimension 20 is that they don't have these epic long seasons quite like Critical Role does. So they're much more consumable. Their content is it's like a television show.
Bigger bite size rather than getting into the entire Brandon Sanderson series.
Yes.
On the flip side, I'm not going to ever watch all Critical Role, though I love them dearly, and I'll pop in sometimes and watch one. It's just too much. But that's great, for everyone who has the time. I just don't. But yeah, I feel you. I've been in the same game for about a little over 2 years now, and that's been really special. My new work schedule is disrupting that a bit right now, and that game is actually viewable on YouTube. Not to plug too much, but yeah.
Sure. It's on your site, Himeka.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet.
Called Zoshin Epoch.
What's it called?
Zoshin Epoch.
Zoshin.
Xotian. It's my own homebrew. I wrote the setting. So
nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we actually I used to do TTRPGs on this channel. The YouTube's still up there. It's The Spice Must Roll was the name of it. And we did things like The Expanse RPG. We did Wrath and Glory for Warhammer 40K. We've done I can't remember the name of it. It was one of those like generic Stars Without Number, I think is what it was. This is a system.
Okay.
So mostly sci-fi stuff, but yeah. What is a TTRPG? That's a good point. It's a tabletop role-playing game. Dungeons and Dragons is probably the most common known TTRPG.
Yeah.
So
character sheets and dice. That's
imagination. All right, we'll move on to the next question. From Big Geo, a Big Geo,
Big George.
Big George,
Big George.
Big George P. Will we see dynamic server meshing by the end of 2025? Ooh.
Who's got a magic 8-ball?
I will. I can make a bold prediction. I will stand up and take it. I'll take that thing. I think we will 100%. Yes, we will see dynamic server meshing before the end of 2025. But caveat: it's going to be version 1, the basic version. I don't think we'll see anything more beyond that. Yeah.
Here's the thing. Chris said it himself, and I believe it to be true. The hard work is just getting the server meshing to work. Mm-hmm. Ideally, dynamic server meshing shouldn't really matter that much because the system's already being designed to work with transferring authority as they move across servers. All the other underlying stuff is still there. All they're doing with dynamic server meshing is changing. I'm probably definitely minimizing this a lot, but all they're really doing is changing the size and the frequency with which it might change. I don't think it's going to be a huge rocket science change to make it work. Yes, it's work and it's a little bit different, and they'll run into some edge cases and things like that they have to contend with. But I don't think it's going to be that challenging. And I think let's see. Let's come back here a year from now. Yeah. And yes, I think they're going to have it too. 100%.
The big thing to understand about version 1 of dynamic is that version 1 of dynamic is what we have right now for static, but they can change which region has which authority. So basically they can change the configuration on the fly, I believe is what it is. But it's the same configurations, it's just moving things around, like where the game goes, oh, this area needs more servers. So they just, change the servers or swap around who has what server. But it's still the same zones. It's just changing which server has which authority over which zones on the fly. If I remember correctly, I'm probably doing that completely wrong. And someone please do tell me in the comments if I'm completely wrong.
I think the big issue is making new smaller servers when they're called for. So in other words, if there's an area that is really congested and there's a physical geographic area that's really congested, then they're going to wind up making multiple servers cover that one area, and that's really, I think, where hopefully it will shine.
Yeah, spooling up something new for density.
Yeah. They're going to use the same number of servers with Dynamic 1 is what I'm saying. So like if we have 10 servers for Pyro and 5 for Stand and 5 for Pyro now, they're not going to change that number. That number is going to stay the same, whatever it is. It's just where the servers are controlled. Well, that, with version 1, it's like just where the servers are and authority is going to change. So if like Arc Corp is super big, and there's like 500 people in Arc Corp because it's the IAE is being held there. Then what they'll do is they'll just say, okay, Arc Corp is his own server. And then then they distribute the different areas to different servers. So it's just the area itself becomes its own server. So it only has to focus on Area 18 Arc Corp rather than the rest of them. But they're not going to spin up new servers and spin down old servers. It's just balancing it. And that's what the dynamic allows them to do, because if they can balance it on the fly, then they can increase the server numbers. They can increase the number of people because there's always some trigger where the server can go, boop, change it around. So yeah, as a result, based off of their own statements as well, 100%, I believe they're going to have Dynamic 1 before the end of the year. I think you said yes as well, Red Monster, and I know Radar Ranger. So, how about you, Himeka? I think we're going to see Dynamic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just like nodding my head. Yeah, I believe so as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I wonder how manual it will be though. I would love to know. I'd love to hear that from them. Is like, are they having to assign someone to like observe the movements of players and assign regions and resize the servers? I'm not sure.
That's 2.0. That's 2.0.
Yeah. I imagine that's what it is. Where it can do completely hands off. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Rich Trier up there pulling levers all day long, back and forth.
I doubt him, but yeah.
It's probably Bearded, unfortunately. It's probably Bearded and Ahmed who are just sitting there being like,
Too slow.
I could see IT being roped into that.
Yes. All right. Northern Trooper asks, how many hats does Andy have? More importantly, how many Star Citizen hats?
I have hats. I have 3 MyRadar hats.
Uh-huh.
I have like 1 Star Citizen MyRadar hat. I don't know if you can tell. This is
Damar?
Yellow.
Yellow. Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's yellow. Nice.
Yeah. Let me see. Oh,
Yeah, I can
get
see
this
it.
right in the camera. Yeah.
It looks a little blue to me.
Yeah. It's supposed
No
to be gray.
rings.
Bad joke. Sorry.
Oh, instead of yellow.
I didn't get that. I was very slow. I was gonna say no. It's the camera color. So, yeah. Anyway, yes, that's the answer.
Okay. So
I got a Star Citizen hat from the show convention.
I'm going to ask the question that I don't think they've asked before. It's been asked before, but if CIG approached you and asked you to do a tie-in app with the current system for weather, would you still do it?
Hell yes. I actually have. I'm working on a video about exactly that. I just finished the script a couple of weeks ago while I was on vacation on a flight, and I'm going to put out a video that goes into detail on what I would love to do with that. The answer is absolutely.
Okay.
You know, we had to stop it at the time just because the technology was changing so frequently underneath the hood, and it didn't make any sense for them to devote any efforts to it because it was really just like an experiment and a collaboration. But I firmly believe Star Citizen absolutely has to have a companion app, and that's what my video will be about. So we can talk about that at some point.
Sweet. All right. Next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, do you think being a citizen by acquiring it from Squadron 42 will have opportunities that a non-citizen would not? Would that be from a form of pay to win to you?
I don't think it'll be
because you
tier citizen there, right? You'll have citizenship there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The non-citizen, yeah, they've talked about citizens being able to own and kind of reserve land and settle space, but it would be an interesting. I don't necessarily see it as a pay to win. They talk about you being able to have your journey for citizenship, but yeah, as far as if you earn it just through completing Squadron, I mean it's a trade-off. I think you achieve it through Squadron, or you have the other gameplay route to learn the ropes.
I kind of feel like there should be some. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, Himeka, you're going to say something about it?
Oh yeah, I was just saying, absolutely, it's not pay to win because you bought their other game and you had to play it to get that citizenship, and then once you're done with that, then that grants you the citizenship. It's not like you buy Squadron 42 and you're automatically a citizen. So
you still have to.
Either way, you're getting it through gameplay.
You still have to get good.
Yeah, get good, noob. Go
Radar.
have fun. Play the game.
Andy?
Yeah, I just think there should be some unique achievement. Yeah, to from citizenship from the game from Squadron 42. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I encourage you to play it.
I don't think it's pay to win because hopefully by the time we see Squadron 42 out, we'll have that main story in some way, shape, or form, which means people will have an idea of what that main story is going to look like. And remember, they said it's going to take like 30 to 40 hours for the main story of Star Citizen, and then they said that Squadron 42 is going to be at 30 to 40 hours. So it's if they allow you to get citizenship with Squadron 42, it's just more like, do you want to play the main story or do you want to play Squadron 42? And gives options, and it's fine because they also said they wanted to do other ways of doing citizenship as well, not just the main story. So it'll be interesting to do good. So
maybe breaking records or something, or doing something massively impactful to the UEE gets you citizenship or something like that. Would be cool.
I'd love to see that, like participating in a defense of Stanton from Xenothreat in some epic way or something like that. So
yeah, like a month-long event or something that is like literally real time or something. That would be cool.
All right, next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, to Andy, as a CEO, what is your perspective on the leadership changes within CIG recently? How do you see it being impacting on game development and content delivery for Star Citizen and Squadron 42?
I saw that question come up. It's a really good question. Star Citizen has been in development for 12 years, and that is a really long time in the tech industry. And so, if you imagine someone staying in one job, especially in the tech industry for that long, it's kind of uncommon. So you can just totally understand a little bit of a change of hands just for that reason alone. Carl Jones was one of the guys who left recently, and we worked with him when we first started on that collaboration. He was a very nice guy. I'm really grateful to the help that he gave us when we got started on it. If I was going to say something, kind of cautiously, clearly CIG was working on Squadron 42 for a while, and the PU and Star Citizen was kind of not really an afterthought, but kind of took a back burner a little bit. I think now that the 1.0 is in the sights and they have a focus and a goal to get towards that release, it absolutely is understandable that shuffling the crew a little bit in order to make sure that new minds are freshly focused on that and to sort of break out of maybe old habits is absolutely warranted. I think Rich Trier is an amazing guy. He's incredibly smart. And Rich, if you're listening, I was talking to one of the devs at CitizenCon. I won't name his name, but he made a comment that said that Richard Trier is just every bit as inspirational as Chris Roberts is. Richard came up through the ranks and is clearly one of the driving forces, I think, behind them getting that target set up in a bullseye of a 1.0 release and getting those game loops tied together so that they all have a purpose and they all, drive each other. I imagine that a lot of the change up is probably as a result of that new focus. And so I think it's a good thing. I think I think absolutely it should impact, gameplay and Star Citizen development. That's arguably why they probably made the changes in the first place. I think it's a good thing. We'll find out this year if they're able to continue to marching towards this 1.0 release and we get some of the things that they promised. They've been developing a game and now they have to make it work together.
Yeah,
and make it stable. So
I will kind of caveat that, add to that as well. Even like just today, in modern days, how working for more than 5 years in a company is very unusual. I work in the public sector as a teacher, and I have worked long enough in my current school where I am a grizzled veteran compared to a lot of the other teachers. And I haven't even been there for 10 years. I'll be 10 years as of next year. But as of like 2 years ago, when I was like a 7-year teacher at the school, I was already being looked up to as the person who knew all these things. And I'm like, I still don't know what I'm doing. What are you talking about? Why are you looking at me for these things? So I can understand, because I think one of the guys who left was the person who's spearheading server meshing. And, he was an R&D guy. And so when server meshing is done, I imagine he was just like, my job's done. I've built the tech. Now I'm going to hand it off to the folks who are going to be finishing up, because there's specialties, people do different things. It's one of the reasons why, unfortunately or fortunately, pretty much in the games industry, when a project is completed, people move on from that project and move to another project, or have to get shuffled around, because, when the skills it takes to build one thing aren't the same skills that build everything else. And so if you don't have the skills to continue on, or you don't even have the desire to, because it's still a passion driven industry, people want to care about what they're doing, then you may not go. So, yeah. All right, moving on to the next question, because we're kind of, we do have a time limit for this one. Oh, next one is from Radar Ranger. Says, dude, that's an awesome question. I can't wait to get to it. Northern Trooper asks, rehash question, but I'm curious from the panel. Sorry, Paul. Question. This week I was traveling from New Babbage to Bloom in Pyro in a single seat ship, no bed. It took me 20 minutes until I had to AFK to deal with my kids. When I came back, I was kicked due to idle. When I relogged back in the PU, I was put back in New Babbage, losing my progress in the travel. In 2025, do you think CIG will revisit the rules of idle kick this year? Red Monster, I'll start with you on this one.
Ooh. Well, first, North End, you should know better than fly in a ship without a bed. As an adult playing video games, you're going to get interrupted. So that one is entirely on you, North End, but I heart you. Second off, I do feel like it is kind of ironic that they will have server login queues for 20 plus minutes, but a 10-minute timeout. So I do think they will need to, I think it's worth it reevaluating, especially now that we have higher server caps. when we had 15-player servers, absolutely. If you were AFK for 5 minutes, somebody else needs that spot. But the way that things are running now, the sizes we have available to us, I think, it makes sense to revisit. But
awesome. Himeka, your thoughts on that? Idle kick. Do you think they're going to revisit that?
I would hope so. Just because of the nature of the game, how long it takes traveling long distance as well between systems. Say like you're riding in someone's ship and they're taking you from Microtech to Terminus. That's 15 minutes plus. So you might actually get kicked while you're flying along. I don't know if they have anything in place to like keep you from being dropped in quantum or anything like that. Honestly, I was thinking a pause button. I realize it's a multiplayer game, but like a pause button of sorts, a option when you click escape that says like I'll be back in 5 or something like that. Hold my place, keep me loaded in, keep things rendered, or find me a new server when I do come back. That'd be really, really useful, especially for those kinds of things. And then like maybe after an hour or two of being in that state, then it kicks you. But
I've joked about this for a while, but I actually think this would be a good idea. They have bathrooms.
Yeah.
Just have a bathroom be an AFK. Where you're sitting on
it could be a spawn closet. You just
go to the bathroom.
You've been in there for a while.
You sit down on the seat. You close the door, and that sets you as a I can't. I'm idling for a bit, and then
Yeah. That's fantastic.
You hear a shout across Discord voice. I'm going off campus.
Yeah. What about you, Radar? Do you think this year we're going to see any changes to idle kick? So,
look, I think we got to look at the real problem here. The problem isn't the idle kick; those are understandable because you really don't want people tying up a server spot. The problem is getting people to be able to come back into the game where they left off.
Okay.
And that is something the CIG has acknowledged that they want to tackle. So in other words, okay, yes, I go to the bathroom, I get idle kicked and logged off. I shouldn't have to start over at a station again. I should be able to come back in where I was and kind of pick up and leave, take off from where I left. And that essentially addresses the problem and solves the whole server capacity issue. They did say that they wanted to kind of relook at this whole bed log thing. Bed logging should be for when you want to log off safely and make sure that nobody's going to attack you after you log out. You should have, like in many of the other MMO games, you should have the ability to kind of disconnect and accept that you're going to be vulnerable for like a minute or so afterwards. Somebody could theoretically attack your character, while you're logged out for that time frame. And that would essentially solve the problem because then you can just, you get disconnected, great, come back in and pick up where you left off.
Talking about like true persistence and such, I get it. I think the other thing that might be helpful are things like being able to prioritize getting yourself back into the same server, so that if you get dropped, you get back put back in, so it's not just randomized. Those sorts of little issues, but I'm sure a lot of that is back end improvements, and I really do hope you're right that we see true persistence in the game where you crash out, you log out, and you come back in, you're in the same place, even if you're at a different server, but we have to see.
Especially if you server hopped to find a healthy server and that took you a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like that just sucks when you just leave for just like 15 minutes and 3 seconds.
Yes. We've all been there.
Sucks. Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Escape, who asks, what kind of reputation systems do you think we need ASAP? How would you like to see them implemented? Brainstorm possible requirements. Andy, I'll start with you on this one.
I'm going to take a weird answer to this, and I'm going to say we need org reputation systems. Reputations within an org. Because they showed off all that cool, juicy org gameplay and functionality at CitizenCon. That's what I want to see. Like, I get the industry reputation and all that. That stuff is good, and it seems to work. I'm not even sure if I'm answering the question right or if I'm interpreting it right, but that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah.
It's the same thing. Yeah, you're talking about reputation systems. Do we need, Himeka, same question to you. What kind of reputation systems do you think we need right away? And how would you like to see them implemented?
Just riffing off what Radar just said, they being able to have inside your org our own personal orgs, being able to have those roles, those ranks, and not just ranks, but have like assignments of like what this person generally likes to specialize in would be super useful for maintaining things. Right away, though, what we need is reputation that functions between all factions within the game that exists. Citizens of Pyro, Headhunters, Ninetales, everything. That all needs to be functioning. That's what I think should be immediate because we're talking about making a game that people from outside our little bubble can come and enjoy.
Yeah.
It's weird that only 2 work, you know?
Yeah. The repetition hostility system, the one they are apparently already have in the game, that's what we need, in my opinion. Yeah. Which is what you just said. Same. Just like, if I'm doing missions for TC Pacheco, I should be pissing off a lot of people, just because I'm doing those missions. And then those people send hitmen after me. The classic, Bethesda style, or I think it's in Fable. It's a lot of like RPGs where if you have a faction, if you side with one faction, the other factions are going to start trying to kill you because you're siding with that faction.
And there's a little bit of that, but just expand that, make it function, bug fix, that sort of thing.
Redmonster, same question to you. What kind of reputation systems do you want to see?
I mean, I had thoughts, but damn, like Andy with the org reputation, like that is absolutely what you need, right? As an org leader, I want to be able to go through and assign reputation points for people who participate in events, right? And be able to award reputation and then have that be something they can get some benefits from. Long term, that's coming, right? And I'm excited to see how that's going to work long term. But yeah, it's out there still. The sooner they can get it in, I think the better that the in-game org system and the more important orgs are going to be. And it ties in really well. Like my hard cutoff today is actually we're kind of hosting an org summit for my group that talks about our plans for the future, and it would that's absolutely part of our long-term strategy, is to manage our within org and also between org reputation. So that was just a good answer. The other, I think there's some reputation already. But yeah, we need to be able to see if there's a player who's out there and continually doing, assassination missions and stuff throughout Stanton. They shouldn't be able to hack away a crime stat. Like there's got to be some reputation tied to that in a long term. So,
I will also say the thing that I'm looking forward to, the thing I want to see with reputation this year, is you go to meet up a friend with some location. Like, hey, we're gonna go meet up at this location specifically. And you show up and the friend shows up and sits down in like the bar or at the rally location and then has a realization like, oh, these people want to kill me. And then have a that panic, like, why is everyone kind of starting to get guns and move towards me? Oh, wait, I'm wanted by these people. I should have chosen a different location.
You walked into the wrong bar.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Like
it got quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sort of realization that as a player that realizes that their actions have consequences. That's what I'm looking forward to. If your actions have consequences in Star Citizen in 2025, I will be a happy bubber. So, all right. Next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, with some talks about cheating in contested zones, do you feel CIG should put a priority of in-game reporting systems? Hands down, yes, but that's just more than just that. Like, we also need our mute in-game. I need to be able to block people in public chat because that place is a toxic sludge heap that everyone turns off immediately. What do you think?
Sorry, I'm going to chime in here. I'm feeling strongly about this one. I think what we need is more of a transactional log of interactions that have happened. If there's a player that shoots you down, you've got maybe a 5-second window when that pop-up happens. If you don't spawn in, you can't see who it was that killed you. Mm-hmm. Right? We need a transactional log or some way to go be able to find that. As long as it makes sense to have that information. The same thing for like credit transfers, right? But you need to be able to have that first and the ability for blocking and reporting in game. It needs to be a priority if the game's going to be successful as an MMORPG. Because right now Pyro, it's a lawless, just murder hobo central, and you sign up for that. But at the same time, if you're getting gate camped by somebody, you want to be able to figure out who they are, who they're representing, and try and work that. if there's somebody in there that's cheating, maybe it's having better visibility to just avoid it, right? Get into another shard or whatever to avoid someone who's obviously exploiting something that's broken within the game.
Andy, your thoughts?
I'm gonna twist the answer a little bit. I'm gonna say that they need to tackle the cheating. The one he mentioned specifically in his question was the contested zones, and I watched the video on it. The way they're doing it is they're clipping through the station geometry on the outside, and when you clip in through it, it basically gives you almost this god mode because you can see all of the rooms in the contested zones, and you basically kind of fumble your way towards the key rooms, the room where you get the card, and they need to be able to find a way to prevent clipping in general. Right now it's a risk that somebody could clip into your Polaris while you're out there and come up and shoot you in the head from behind. You fall through planets accidentally. I would be very curious to see what their long-term plan is, and I posted this thread on this in Spectrum. So if anybody wants to go upvote it, it's in Spectrum under my handle. I asked them whether or not they had any long-term plans for being able to address the clipping, because unless they do in a rock-solid way, people just use it to cheat. So that's my answer.
Yeah, CIG is also very gun shy on handing out bans, which I think is a problem. They need to be more active in swinging that hammer, because you're going to hit some people who shouldn't be hit. But you can always mea culpa and bring them back if it becomes too much of a problem. But if you're too shy with that hammer, sometimes people are just going to get away with murder all the time, and by the time you actually have to do something, it's going to be a huge issue, and you don't want that to happen. So, Mac, your thoughts on the whole situation?
So this brought me back to I think it was last week. I was playing Contested Zones with Yo-Yo Meg and her crew, and we were talking about how people are using third person to look around corners and stuff. They'll like have someone posted up in a corner of a room, and they'll go into third person and use that to observe the situation and get view outside of what they would normally be able to. I feel like that's things like this are things that need to be solved for situations like you're going into an instance, you're going into contested zones. At the point you reach that threshold, you should no longer be able to go into third person. That was our solution for that kind of thing, was just like once you're there, turn it off. Don't even let it happen. You're stuck in first person at that point. Little things like that need to be looked at, as far as like not necessarily making the game fair, but making it harder for people to cause problems.
I would love for like third person to actually be and I think I will say this with confidence that I believe most people who do like screenshots and machinima content for Star Citizen would love to have a camera drone to have a third person camera.
Oh yeah.
That
would be cool.
Be an attachment, like something you can carry in your backpack, or you carry instead of a main weapon. So if you hit the third person version, it pops up as like a little FPV drone, which you can see around the same way it works.
So how do you keep that from being used to cheat?
Because you could see the drone.
Kill the drone. I like that idea.
Just like they do in Jersey.
Yeah. So you see the drone, you see this little buzz thing coming out around the corner. You go, oh, someone's peeking. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's smart.
Because that's how
animation, when you go into third person, you like pull a drone off your chest or whatever, you throw it up into the air, and now you're in a locked third person behind your player.
Yeah. And that also solves the problems of people who want to do glory shots and that kind of stuff, because you got a camera, you can have a camera you can use. And the other thing about that whole is that that's how MechWarrior does it, where like when you go third person, a drone actually pops out of your mech, and you can actually see it flying around. So you can see someone.
I gotta try it.
If someone comes over a wall, like if you see someone, if you're like over a ridge and there's someone on the other side, you don't know where, you can see the drone hovering because it's got a little beeping light on it. So it shows you where you're supposed to where it is. So
I love that. Yeah. That's a great system.
There are solutions to the problem of those sorts of things that CIG could do, and CIG is clever enough that I'm sure they can do something like that, especially if they're doing drone stuff for the construction, because construction.
Yeah.
All right. Northern Trooper asks, why has Andy not gotten an RSI gaming chair to replace his current one?
I'm due. Like, this thing's falling apart. A little black stuff is all over my floor. My armrests are broken. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say I recently
got
the same thing, but I decided not to go with the gaming chair because I hate gaming chairs. I feel like they're awful for your for your.
Same. I have a pretty busted back. I can't use gaming chairs.
How much
I
are
do need a
those?
new chair.
Aren't they like $400 to get those RSI chairs?
Yeah, I think the Monster Tech are about 400.
Yeah. Oh, they're made by Monster Tech. Nice.
Mhm.
I didn't know that. All right. Big George P asks, when do you think we will see Star Sim, formerly Quantum, added to make the gameplay more dynamic? Before I answer this question, I will say it's already in the game. Star Sim does exist. It currently runs all of the repair and refuel for everywhere you go. So the question, I think, is more, when will it be an impact? When do you think we're going to see it beyond its current status? Red Monster, I'll ask you because I'm sure you have opinions on it.
Yeah, it's part of the reason why salvage was such a pain, because you get all your RMC and you couldn't sell it because people were duping RMC and selling masses of those, and the demand was just disappearing. So yeah, it's there. It's showing the flaws and the exploits in the game and trying. It requires balancing, but it's there. So.
Mecca?
Well, it's directly tied to crafting. So I would say if they want crafting to have balance, which they don't have to deliver crafting, it does not need balance to be delivered. Those don't need to be there. But I imagine that they'll want to tie those in pretty quickly instead of having to maintain it separately. I'm hoping soon. I'm not really considering it to be a 2025 thing.
I'd love to see it.
I imagine it's after.
I'd love to see it in 2025 because I also know that it's connected to the mission system, because the missions will propagate based off of the Star Sim. So, and I know
it'll probably be a trickle, like little bits will show up more and more. It won't be just a giant release.
I know Koaku Elliot has you know how John Crew for the longest time would stare at the dynamic damage system, like the armor and stuff like that, and be like, "Oh, this is my albatross around my neck. I got to figure out how to make this work." I feel like the mission system and this dynamic Star Sim stuff is Elliot's sort of, keeps him up at night sort of thing. How am I going to make this work properly and such? So,
I think there's a reason they're being quiet about it. They just have not been chirping about it too much lately.
No.
So.
Oh yeah, I think there's definitely a reason why, and if they're not talking about it, it usually doesn't mean that they're not working on it. It means it's not ready.
It's not making motions. It's not ready to talk about.
Andy, how about you? When do you think we're going to see more information about Star Sim?
Yeah, I might not put as big of a bet on that one being out fully in 2025. I agree with you. I think it's in place now to some degree. One of the biggest hurdles I think that they needed to kind of get in place before they could do a lot more work on it is server meshing and some of the database improvements that they had. That's my guess. The shard concepts. But yeah. I think I'd be hopeful that they add more integrations with it this year, but to the extent that it is what they showed off when Tony Z demoed the fancy screens at CitizenCon back in 2019, 2018, whenever it was, that I don't know. I don't know if that'd be right away.
Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes left. We're going to go through some of these pretty quickly. I'm going to kind of go, just jump around a little bit to get some of the quicker ones. Walter Hack asks, was the Misc Fortune in the sneak peek this week? If you've seen it.
That's what Reddit says.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is.
It's definitely a Misc ship of some kind. And someone asked if it may be a freelancer remake. And it's like, nah, it doesn't look like a freelancer remake because there's like a window at the bottom of one of the walkways, which is very similar to the Starlancer and how it has the sort of views. So yeah, it's definitely a Misc ship. Whether it's the supposed Misc Fortune, probably, I guess, or the Misc salvage ship. Wyatt Hutchinson asks, will any progression in 4.0.1 be saved when it moves to live? No, not with PTU, because it's just PTU.
PTU never does.
Yeah. All right, now that's pretty quick. 1, 2. Oh yeah, didn't ask the same question. Will the progression be achieved in 4.0 preview be saved into 4.0.1 live?
Yes.
Yes.
And
unless there's something totally breaking in their database, yes.
And they've even said that recently, that they still plan on doing that, and they'll let us know if there's a wipe. And further, as another has asked, is there progress in for 4.0 PTU be saved in 4.0.1 live PU now? So yeah. All right. With those out of the way, we've got 3 questions. The first one being from Zen Yen Ben, who asks, in the future, do you think that industrial ships should have a different insurance system to combat ships? It costs $500K for laser modules, gadgets, etc., and hard to make money without them. Red, I'm going to ask you this one. Do you think we're going to see a different tier, different versions?
They've already kind of roadmapped the tiers of insurance that they're going to have available. One is just the chassis, which is what our lifetime insurance is going to be. There is also the chassis and upgrades and various levels of coverage there. So they've talked about there being an insurance plan that will cover the specific ship upgrades, and that's something you definitely want if you're spending hundreds of thousands of credits to outfit your ship. So, I think with the current tiers that they've talked about, I think they've got a mechanic for it. It's not implemented yet, but if you are getting yourself into a situation like that, your best bet's to do insurance claims. So,
Radar.
I'm going to echo what Red just said, because the insurance claim stuff that they just talked about is hopefully going to address all that. So you'll have those tiers that get you what you need.
Himeka?
Also echoing the same sentiment. Also, there's been some interesting changes. I saw on Captain Foxy Loxy's channel that he was talking about how things were like, for a moment there, when you claimed, you could actually get like your FPS weapons back and stuff. I don't necessarily think that should be a part of it in my mind, but I guess they could like add something like that into it if you have equipment that you're using in your ship, in addition to the things that are attached, because those things are already covered. So.
Yeah.
Foxy, you are the man. I watch your stuff. You are like taking it for the team.
Also, honestly.
I will. There's someone said in chat there might be different rates. There may be in the future, but that's a different discussion. I don't think there'll be different tiers or anything like that. Generally speaking, I hope CIG, which seems like what they are doing, is kind of ape what we see in Elite Dangerous in terms of how refunding works and how you get stuff back, because there's and I think in Eve is similar, is like don't fly what you can't afford. So if you can't afford a buyback, don't fly it. So those sorts of things, because there will always be consequences. There will always be risk and rewards in Star Citizen, and that should always be brought into the factor when it comes to insurance, because there should be some like, hey, something weird happened and you blew up. Okay, well, it sucks, but here's a little bit back, even if it's not a bug. Like you just unluckied into a pirate fleet. Well, it happens. Here you go.
Protecting unlucky things would be nice. I don't know if they have anything in place that can do that, but in the future, I do hope that they create systems that are better at detecting those kinds of things.
Yeah. But I mean more like a system that is designed to not be punitive because you die, but to still have consequences because you're still dying, like a system that's designed where like if you do it once, it's not the end of the world. It sucks, but it's like, well, go back to, it's kind of like going back to the old checkpoint that I just missed. Oh, whatever, versus like throwing your headset across the room, financially ruined at the end of everything. So
to be clear, I want those situations. We do need those situations. You
the
need those, like, I'm gonna rage because I fucked up.
There's got to be risk, right?
Like, Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
risk makes the game.
But that should be like long term, not like it happens once and now I will never financially recover from this situation.
Yeah, it needs to be communicated to you. You need to know what you're doing. You need to know what you are risking and have that clearly in your mind while you do it.
Yeah.
However that's communicated.
All right, so this is the last question, which is, oh no, that's the second to last question, which I think is an interesting one. I've not heard of this, but Ryoshima asks, with the showing of PUBG Ally AI, do you think we may be on the verge of seeing DIY generative AI crewmates in the verse? Now, I'm wondering if he's talking about doing this as a CIG sanctioned thing, or if this is a sort of a multi-boxing style where people create their own AI and have it fly as a crew member in a different account. I think I don't know.
I'm a little ignorant to what it is.
Yeah, so I don't know what the PUBG Ally AI is. But
I'm gonna Google it now. I'll tell you.
Yeah, because
okay.
Go ahead.
Knowing a bit about how AI functions and stuff, I don't think that's gonna be very feasible.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're using like separate accounts to run things, like it has to be trained. Like it has to have buckets and buckets and buckets of data to even like begin a semblance of anything that's I don't think any community member is going to be able to do anything like that, to be honest. AI is not that advanced, folks. It creates static and then it learns how to create that static into something that you can see and understand as a picture. Like it's not that smart.
Yeah, so I'm looking it up. Apparently, it's NVIDIA. It's an NVIDIA project where they partnered with PUBG specifically to create an AI that follows you around. The problem I have with this is that's just an NPC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just an NPC. In terms of actual usable in game, if CIG is going to do anything with especially with generative AI, like with using large language models, CIG is going to do it themselves. They'd have to, as you said, they'd have to do buckets of information, and CIG would have to put a lot of time and energy into it. So I personally don't see CIG doing anything with generative AI because it's such a.
I got to tell you, that would be such a cool idea, though, because we've been playing with that a little bit. And if they did take the time, of anybody who would, it would be CIG, because if they invested the effort into, getting that kind of interactivity with NPCs, that could be a bit of a game changer, to abuse the term.
I could see it, but the question is it worth as much time and effort as just building a system yourself and then having a writer write the lines?
You're asking the guys who rewrote CryEngine.
Yeah.
Traditional NPC programming has been around a long time and it's pretty functional when it does work. I don't know that adding the noise of AIs, like generative AI, is worth it. Yeah, but that's for CIG to determine.
And at the end of the day, CIG is not going to use ChatGPT. It's like if that's a public surface, because anything that's added to, if like they decided to use ChatGPT, they would have to add their information to a very publicly open sourced system, which they are very against. So they'd have to
probably
build
have their own models. And
yeah. So.
A side note, I did a quick Google on PUBG Ally AI and ended up in a very dark place under something called dead internet theory.
Have you not heard of the dead internet theory?
No, but I have now, and I feel very.
I'll give you
I want to pull up my blanket.
I will give you the shortest version, which is we're all artificial intelligence. None of this is real. You were in the Matrix.
It's worth your time.
It explains Twitter. It explains Twitter.
Yes. Bots talking to bots. But it's a theory that actually goes to the earliest days of the internet. The dead internet theory is like late 90s is when it first came up.
I did not know.
Yeah.
Threads introduced for a brief moment a flood of their own bots talking to each other, and it just sort of destroyed the platform for a moment. Then they pulled it, and they were like very open about it. And the plan, it seems, is to bring it back in subtly to like fill. And there's even like this app where you can like pretend you're on social media and you're just talking to generative AI. I don't get it. I want to interact with humans, honestly.
Yes. I don't know where they're going with it.
All right. The last question is from Renamon MC, who asks, when will transitioning server into quantum become unnoticeable? To a degree, it already is. It's just not always the case.
I drop out less. Like from the beginning of playing 4.0 P2, then to preview early, it was like every time, like you could know exactly where the hard line was where the server was changing. Now it's like 1 in 10 times, 1 in 5 times. So it already is.
I haven't dropped out at all after Evocati.
Yeah. Monster,
Okay.
what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as the transition there happens, it's obviously one of the metrics I think they're going to be trying to keep an eye on, performance wise, and it's something they're going to tune out. It will eventually become something that won't be noticeable.
Yeah.
But that's all based on polishing of how server meshing works. So
possibly it'll probably always still be there in some way, shape, or form. It'll happen randomly, be like, oh, I must have moved servers. But I think hopefully by the end of this year, it'll be like a rare occurrence where it happens. You're like, oh gosh, I must have hit a server boundary. That's what just happened, versus something that happens enough that you know exactly what's happening all the time. So
it never happened. Should never happen.
Should never happen. But like,
let's hope.
I don't know if that'll be the end of this year. I think that's a 1.0 thing. But yeah, so that's the last question. Thank you so much for joining us, because I know Red Monster's got to go, and I know Himeka's got to go, and I'm having my birthday celebration because I turned.
Oh my gosh! Happy birthday!
It's last week.
Okay.
So.
Oh, okay. Yours was last week, because mine was yesterday, and yeah, we're like almost birthday neighbors.
Happy birthday to you, Red Monster. You know,
close.
you and I both have that wonderful syndrome of Christmas comes around. Here's your Christmas and birthday present.
Yes, it's the same credit card bill between both.
Yeah. But if you enjoyed this, make sure you check out Himeka on Twitch and YouTube. Make sure you check out Red Monster on Twitch and YouTube, and make sure you check out MyRadar for Radar Ranger, and of course him on Blue Sky, and Himeka on Blue Sky as well. If you enjoyed this, please hit that follow button here on Twitch. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/theastropub live. And if you're watching this on the recorded side, please hit that like button and subscribe to the Captain's Table podcast. That is, again, for those of you who are watching live, youtube.com/@the Captain's Table podcast. It is in the top comment, or it's in the top in the description down below for you to go there to subscribe to that. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of January, hopefully, because we're already at almost 500. And we've definitely seen more people come in there to watch it. So thank you for watching. If you are one of those folks, please comment down below your own questions or thoughts on anything we had. And like I always say, hope to see you someday in the black. Oh, it did it again. My stream deck is just twitching out. So.